How's it going, everybody? Nerds Rising here, and welcome back to the Nerd Cave. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at one of the ultimate glass cannons in the Open Great League, and that is Shadow Dragonite. Now, Shadow Dragonite, despite being super frail, actually has some pretty nice play right now against the current meta. It is actually rated pretty high on PvPoke as well, which is surprising, just because it gets a lot of nice meta wins against things like Metacham, Trev, and it even beats Knockdown on the one shield, and can do some pretty nice damage again against some of the steel types because of that superpower coverage. So, despite being frail, it does have some nice matchups, but you really do need shields for it. A shieldless Shadow Dragonite basically is going to get destroyed by like 90% of things, just because it really can't take any sort of charge move that's not resisted. So, to pair up with the Shadow Dragonite, we actually have brought a Shadow Swampert as well, because you really do want to have some sort of hard answer for things like Bastiodon, G-Fisk, and the like, and then Registeel on the team, basically there just to be the damage sponge, because we are running double Shadow, so we need something on the team that can take a hit, and that's going to be Registeel. So again, the team is pretty frail other than the Regi, and we will use the Regi as the safe switch in most scenarios, and hopefully the Regi will draw out something that has heavy fast move pressure, like a Metacham with counter, for example, or something like a Trevenant that would be wrecking our Shadow Swampert and back. So the goal with this team is going to be to use the Shadow Dragonite on the lead to get as many shields as we can, and then hopefully the Shadow Swampert will sweep the endgame after Regi draws out its best counter. So that's how the team was supposed to function. And actually, to be honest, I really did get some nice wins with the team. After dropping some elo with the Excadrill team, I did climb back up. I think I had like 3 or 4 positive sets, and I climbed back up into the 2750s, as you see by my elo there. So we're not quite back up to where we were after using the double team, but we're getting there, and we're using some pretty fun teams in the process. So we're going to be jumping right into this video. I will have it divided into chapters again, and there may even be some situations where I will pause just to go through my thought process with this team, because when you're using double Shadow, you have to have very, very careful energy management, and you have to make some pretty high IQ plays as well. So let's get into the footage, and we're going to be starting off with a pretty rough lead Altaria. Obviously, it's going to be a very neutral matchup. We're going to be hitting each other for very, very high damage with that Dragon Breath, but I know that I can't really switch out of here because I can't afford to potentially have this aligned to my Shadow Swampert in the endgame. So I just elect to play out the Zero Shield and just let them farm me down, but I do get a shield from them, and then they aggressively bring in a Vigoroth, and I don't want to bring in my Swampert right away just because their counters are going to do so much damage, and this honestly isn't the worst situation for Regi. As you see, we get their last shield, and now since I have 2 shields, I call the bait there. They do Body Slam, and I will now shield the second one, and then I'm just going to Focus Blast this thing and get rid of it. I know that the Altaria has some energy, but I know that one Hydro Cannon from my Swampert will take it out, so I'm expecting them to bring in their third probably at this point, and they do bring it in, and it's their own Swampert. And they do make a nice combo play here. They bank some energy, but I know I have to let this Sky Attack go, because I know I have to save my shield for their own Swampert. So this game is not over. We are going to take this out, but this Swampert has a lot of energy, and since it's a non-Shadow, they're not in Hydro Cannon range, so I have to commit to the Earthquake. They're at the back-to-back. It's going to come down to a CMP tie, and my Swampert wins CMP, and they're going to take an Earthquake to the face, and that's going to be a GG. So there, if I shield the Sky Attack, I simply just lose, but the fact that we win CMP gets us the win, and now we have another Altaria in the second battle. And again, I'm going to play this the same exact way. Just going to stay in here, play out the zeros, and they very likely are just going to do the same thing, shield, and then fully farm us down. And hopefully this time they actually just stay in and let us farm down. That's what I was planning on doing in the last battle, but the opponent, I think in the last battle, made a very nice read that if we stay in there, we're probably weak in the back. So that's why they say switch out of here. But this opponent is just going to stay in here and just basically chip our Regi and maintain alignment. So we'll have to see what they have in the back. Is it going to be the same team here? And no, they actually have their own Regi. So the fact that they stay in here probably indicates to me that they're going to be weak in the back to my Registeel. And they're actually not. They're actually running a Shadow Swampert. So Not exactly what I was expecting to see here, but the nice thing is, since we over-farm so much, we actually grab both of their shields, and now we can just simply bring in our 2-shielded Shadow Swampert, and we are going to have to commit both shields, but now all we have to do here is just over-farm to the back-to-back Hydros, because I know even if their Reggie has a move, they're basically in Hydro Cannon range, and Registeel obviously is going to be losing CMP to Swampert, so I farm up to the back-to-back, the opponent realizes it's over there, and they're just going to surrender, so basically, my lose con there was to not farm up to the back-to-back. And in the next battle, we have a Tapu Fini, which is absolutely horrible for us. And I bring in the Shadow Swampert this time as a safe switch, just because you don't want to bring in your hard answer to the lead, because then if they switch out, then I'm left with a Shadow Swampert and a Dragonite to take this out later. So I bring in the Swampert. I didn't even build up to the EQ there. I knew they would outpace me to a Surf if I did that, and I wanted to get some guaranteed damage off on this thing, and as you see, I just end up going for double Hydros, and I do get this thing fairly low, and I get a shield, so at this point, we're just going to have to let our Swampert go, and I'm actually going to try to make a very aggressive, double resisted Dragon Breath farm down here. Fortunately, the water guns aren't doing too much, and we do just farm down before they get to a Moonblast, and they have an Obama Snow in the back, so not what I was hoping to see. We will get their last shield here, and we're just going to have to hope that the Reggie can clutch this endgame out. And it's going to do just that, because they have their own Registeel in the back. And up a shield, we can easily just Focus Blast here, shield their move, Focus Blast them again, and then they're going to have a Shadow Abomasnow with no shields against the Registeel. And that's simply just going to be a GG. So, despite a very tricky lead, after we get rid of the Tapu Fini, they basically had no answer to the Registeel, which is kind of crazy. And yeah, they're going to surrender there. So GG. And I think, I forget if that was, I think we're like halfway through at this point. Yeah, I think that was the first of the fairy leads, because I did face quite a few fairies. Typically, it was going to be the Shadow A9, which, as you see, is probably one of the worst things we could see. So again, I don't bring in my hard answer in the Reggie. I'm going to bring in my soft answer in the Swampert. And despite Medi pretty comfortably taking this matchup against the Swampert, we do get some chip damage and we get a shield. And again, our goal with this team is just going to be, when the Shadow Swampert cannot close there, when we have to use it to safe switch, we'll use the Registeel to close and hope that they're double weak to it. So we do, unfortunately, we're going to have to throw a move here because we're not going to be able to fully farm down. They will get to another Ice Punch, so I'm forced to throw. We're in even shields, and the team that you guys probably have seen that I was expecting this to be is Shadow A9, Medicham, and Bastiodon in the back. So if it's a Bastiodon in the back, which it is, they are fully core broken by the Reggie, and again, they're going to surrender. And what you're going to see is that team was pretty common. I faced this team like 5 or 6 times, and despite it being an absolutely horrible lead, they really don't have a great answer to the Reggie once the Medi is out of the way. This time the opponent actually, I think, makes a really nice play here. They recognize that we probably have a nice answer to their Bastiodon in the back. So rather than switching into the Medi and basically allowing me to get rid of it, they're actually just going to stay in and double shield and maintain switch advantage here. So when I bring in my Registeel here, they still have their Medi at full health, and they're not basically going to get fully swept by the Reggie like they did in the last game. So they do actually just stay in here, and they're going to chip me. And again, they're not going to switch out, and they're going to maintain alignment. And I do overfarm slightly here. I do Focus Blast them because it is cheaper. Obviously, any move here is going to take them out. And now they're going to bring in the Medi to our Registeel. And when I bring in the Dragonite, they can now bring in the Bastiodon. But unfortunately for this opponent, they probably don't realize just how much a Shadow superpower does to a Bastiodon, and that nearly one-shots, and this perfectly puts them into a range where we can lock on farm them down. We will shield the Flamethrower, and unless this Medicham is running Dynamic Punch, we actually might be able to do this, because if we get the Zap Cannon debuff here, 2 Zap Cannons will KO, and we do get the debuff, and now we should be able to tank this damage and survive long enough to get to another Zap Cannon. And they are running Power Up Punch, and we just make the next Zap Cannon. So despite this opponent playing very, very well, in my opinion, we're still able to overcome another Shadow A9 lead with our Shadow Dragonite. So very well played to that opponent. And we're facing a Shadow Charizard in the next battle, which, as you guys know, is super, super strong. But just look at how much damage those Dragon Breaths are doing to this thing. Just absolutely shredding it. And unfortunately, I think they will just barely make another one. So I throw my Dragon Claw just before they get to their second. And now I'm going to switch into the Reggie and catch their Dragon Claw. Recognizing there that I had to double shield there if I wanted to fully farm down. And they bring in the Trevenant here, which is exactly what this team is designed to do. The Reggie is here to draw out that Trevenant, and I know I'm not going to win this matchup, but I'm hoping that if I get the Zap Cannon debuff here, I will hopefully not be able to be farmed down before I get to another one. I do get the debuff. Can I get to a second move? And I just barely can't get to the Zap Cannon. I probably should have just gone for the Focus Blast there, but unfortunately, they do farm down, which is not great. And at this point, I cannot let my Shadow Swampert go without a shield, so I'm just going to call a bait here. And the opponent does go for the Seed Bomb. They try to catch the Dragon Claw with their Charizard there. You couldn't see it because the Dragon Breath just completely deleted it. But I actually do bank a Dragon Claw there. And what's going to be in the back? It's actually a Registeel here, so I think I may just barely have enough health on my Dragonite to get to a superpower. So I decide to bait here, and the opponent falls for the bait, and now their Reggie's going to get nuked by this EQ, and that's going to be a GG. So there, my only win con was to call the Seed Bomb. If I get baited with the Seed Bomb, they can just simply Seed Bomb me again and then outpace my Swampert, and I would have lost that game there. So Sableye lead here in the next battle, and the opponent brings in a Dunsparce. So you gotta love someone else running the Dunsparce, and I do throw on CMP there. I tried to catch, but unfortunately it was CMP. So now, rather than switching out right away and taking drill runs on my Backmons, I know where they're at in terms of energy. Again, counting is just so important, guys. It's 4 rollouts to the first and 3 to the second. So I knew they were going to take 3 to get to their next one. So I catch the Rock Slide on the Swampert, and again, it's going to be 4 now. So I throw on CMP to their next one, and they're unwilling to commit their last shield. So they get taken out, and at this point, I'm just going to full send the Earthquake. Are they going to respect it? And they do respect it. But the nice thing here is, I'm expecting them to not expect my Dragonite to be so close to the Claw. So I'm going to just come in and try to get it off right away. And we do get it off. They are not able to click their move fast enough. And now we have a shield advantage and a full health Reggie for whatever's in the back. And it's the Sableye from the lead. And at this point, I actually just realized that there's no reason to even switch out because those Dragon Breaths just were destroying that poor Sableye. And they end up surrendering. So a Lanturn lead here. This matchup is fully dependent on whether they bait. And they usually do bait. But you just really have to respect all the charge moves because they just do so much on the Dragonite. So I do respect it, fully expecting to get surf baited. And of course, the opponent does surf bait. So we're in even shields here now. So I count up again to 5. Since they baited, it was going to take 5 to get to the Thunderbolt. And we're going to tank this damage on the Reggie, where it does significantly less damage. And again, the Reggie safe switch working as intended. We draw out a Metacham. So we are going to lose this matchup, but we will be able to get off a Zap Cannon and put the pressure on them. And it looks like they're running Power Up Punch. So I'm hoping here that they're running Pup and Psychic. Unfortunately, we do not get the debuff there, so we're not going to make another move. And our Shadow Dragonite has a lot of work to do here because we really need to get this thing out of here. So I do throw one more Dragon Breath, knowing they're just short of an Ice Punch if they're running it. And they actually just let it go. So they probably were running Pup. And the opponent has a Charm A9 in the back. And at this point, I know they can tank one Hydro, so I'm fully expecting them to let this go. But they actually do shield my Earthquake, so this is really not good now. And they do try to catch there, so I hold on to my energy, and this allows me to overfarm very nicely and get to the back-to-back Hydras. And I know that this Hydro here is not going to KO, but I'm hoping that if I land this, I can fully Dragon Breath down. It's going to be very, very close. Can we Dragon Breath down? And Shadow Dragonite is an A9 counter confirmed. Moving into the next battle here, we have another Lanturn lead, and you guys have already seen how I like to play this out, but this time the opponent actually aggressively brings in a Shadow A9, and here I was thinking, if they're bringing in their Shadow A9 to my Dragonite, they must have something else in the back that's very, very strong against it, like maybe a Bastiodon. So I'm definitely going to have to make sure that I keep Switch at all costs. But honestly, I'm really not sure that there's any situation where a Shadow A9 can take back Switch from a Registeel. Maybe if they double shield and I don't get the Zap Cannon debuffs, maybe they could charm me all the way down. But as you see, that first one got the debuff, and then the opponent actually shielded. So I'm not really sure why they shielded there after seeing that they got debuffed, because all that they did there was just give up a shield and switch. So now we have switch and shield advantage, and we get another Zap Cannon off on the Lanturn, and we get the debuff. So this is just going absolutely perfectly for me, and the opponent has a knockdown on the back. So again, guys, if you're running something like a neutral response to the lead and a very strong response to the lead, you want to bring in your softer of the two answers. And because see what happened here is the opponent brings in their Shadow A9 to the Dragonite, and now they really don't have an answer to it in back, because Shadow Dragonite, like I mentioned in the intro, actually does beat Noctowl, and I think the 1 and 2 shield. So at this point, Shadow Dragonite just destroys their Noctowl, and we have a Swampert with his shield for their Lanturn, and that's just simply a GG there. So what the opponent probably should have done is just stay in the lead there, but you know, you live and learn, and we take another dub. So Defense Deoxys here, and I do like Defense Deoxys quite a bit in this current meta. Pretty nice matchup for the Dragonite, honestly, there, and they actually are going to build up to 7. So this could be a Rock Slide, but either way, I was going to shield because a Psycho Boost would probably nearly one-shot us. And the opponent there, I was expecting them probably to throw the Psycho Boost right away. So I throw my Claw just before they get there, and I actually do try to make a catch on the Psycho Boost, but the opponent actually doesn't throw there. So this tells me they're probably actually running Rock Slide and Thunderbolt, which is kind of crazy. You really don't see too many Rock Slide Thunderbolt DDs anymore, but I didn't want to take any more counter damage, so I overfarm, I Focus Blast the Deoxys, and now we're going to have to see what they have in back to meet our Registeel, because oftentimes they do have something like a Ghost in the back, and sure enough, they do have a Sableye in the back, and I think the opponent may actually have overfarmed there, and they're going to let us get off our Zap Cannon, and we do get the debuff. So now I think they're going to be forced to throw, and they are forced to throw. Since we got the debuff, they're not able to farm down, and now we're going to bring back in the Shadow Dragonite, and they have an Umbreon in the back, which is absolutely perfect. So my goal here is going to be superpower this thing, they're shieldless, and then catch their move on the Swampert, and we should be able to outpace them to their second move here. And they're actually running Dark Pulse, which is perfect. So again, I know my counts. I'm going to throw just before they get to their next Dark Pulse, and actually I think I threw on CMP there, and now we're going to take this thing out. And at this point, we can just simply let our Swampert go down, and Shadow Dragonite just destroys Sableye. The Dragon Breaths are just so oppressive. They're absolutely shredding them, and we get to the Claw. As you see, I overfarmed there just to make sure this Claw was going to KO, and it does. Actually, just barely not KO, but one more Dragon Breath does. And that is another GG, and I think we have maybe 2 more battles, guys. So Obstagoon lead here. Pretty nice matchup for us, but again, Shadow Dragonite just does not want to take charge moves. So unfortunately, we are actually going to have to shield this Night Slash, and it wouldn't KO, but it would do a ton of damage. And they actually bring in an Altaria, which is very nice for us. We're going to get this shield back with the Claw, and we have a very, very nice response. And I think those few Dragon Breaths I did on the Altaria here should probably put this into a range where a Zap Cannon should just about KO, and then we can farm down with Lock On. So this is a really nice situation for us. Zap Cannon will do a lot of damage here, and this is a little bit of an awkward Lock On farm down here, but we're just going to commit to it anyway. And this, guys, is a situation I think where I was considering pausing it, because what you're going to see is I do have the move here, but there's really, I'm going to pause here. As you see, I have the move. I could throw it, but what you're going to see is this Altaria is going to get to their Sky Attack just before we farm them down. And what I'm realizing here is there's absolutely no benefit here of me throwing my move, because all that does is it's going to give whatever comes into my Regi a nice farm down, and I don't want to give whatever they have in back an energy lead against my 2 glassy Shadows in the back. So despite me having the move, I choose not to throw it. I'm just going to let them take me out here, and now I'm going to come in with my Shadow Swampert and Mudshot them down, and now I have an energy lead for whatever's in the back, and they actually bring back in their Goon. So I'm going to throw my Hydro here. And since I have a nice energy lead here, this puts me in a nice situation to close. And they have a knockdown, which is really, really nice. And here again, I'm going to throw on CMP. Because if I throw my Claw right away, then they can probably let it go and then farm me down. But by throwing on CMP, knowing my counts there, 6 to a Sky Attack, I maximize my energy. I throw the Superpower on CMP, and again, I throw again after 6, and I throw on CMP to maximize my farm with the Swampert, and that allows me to outpace this Obstagoon, because they are getting very close to 2 Night Slashes here. So, since I overfarm, I have the Hydro now, and I'm going to take out that Obstagoon. So, knowing your counts is so important, guys, and especially when you have Shadows, if you can throw on CMP, it's very, very nice to maximize your energy gain. So that was a very close game that some very careful timing and energy management get us the win here. So Trevenant lead here, and not the best situation, and they have a Nidoqueen here that comes in. I don't have the best answer. I do have a Registeel, which is a pretty nice answer, but they do have Earth Power, so I tried to catch the Poison thing, but the opponent nicely holds onto the energy, and they are going to hit me with the Earth Power here. And again, this is a situation where you're going to see me get to the move here. I'm going to pause this. Actually, I don't even need to pause this. Maybe I do. We'll see. I do. Yeah, let's just pause it for a second here. I don't always like to pause, but I think this is really important. So let's just back it up here a couple seconds. As you're going to see, I don't throw the move right away, because what's going to happen if I take them out with my move, it probably would just about KO, but then all that's going to do is if I take them out, it's going to let their Trevenant come in and farm me all the way down on my Registeel. And Trevenant, as you guys see, with a big energy lead, can absolutely destroy our Swampert. And our Dragonite is just so glassy, it really does not want to see those charge moves from the Trevenant. So rather than taking them out and letting myself get farmed down, I just let them throw, knowing they could potentially bait as well. They do fully take me out, but now I can come in with my Shadow Swampert again and get a very, very nice energy lead. They just threw, so I know they're 8 away from another Earth Power, and I can throw my Hydro Cannon on the CMP to their Earth Power. And now, despite the fact that we're going to have to face their Trevenant, we have a 2-to-1 shield advantage. And what you guys are going to see is that Shadow Swampert can basically two-shot a Trevenant, despite them being very healthy. And I'm actually going to make another play, knowing their counts, and I catch a Seed Bomb onto my Dragonite. And this basically just seals the game here. They do have an Umbreon in the back, and again, I don't want to throw early here and potentially let them snarl me down. So I count to 4, and I throw on CMP. Again, now they're stuck in the charge move. They cannot farm me down. I maximize my energy gain, and I get their last shield. And now I know that they're 3 away from the next. So I will throw just before they get there. And I will probably overfarm again and get my Hydro off just before they throw. They actually did overfarm there slightly. But now we can simply just shield here, farm them down. And if they bring back in the Trevenant, since we caught, their Trevenant is energy dry, and we will outpace them. And then we can just farm down the Umbreon. So despite the very tricky backline for us, some very careful CMPs and some energy management is going to take a very nice win to close out the video. And that's going to be all she wrote, guys. So thank you so much for watching. The channel has experienced some really awesome growth in the past week or so. For whatever reason, YouTube has just decided now that it's going to show my videos some more viewers. And my videos are getting like over 2 to 3K views now, which is completely crazy. Prior to the last couple of days, my highest view on a video was like just over 1,000, and now I think my Dunsparce video got like 3,500 views, and the one I just posted a couple of days ago already has nearly 1,000. So thank you guys so much for the support. Thank you to everyone that's subscribed recently. It really does mean a lot. And for those of you who are new and have not subscribed yet, consider doing so, because the more subscribers we can get, the more Pokemon my wife will let me play.